Time to fight fear with faith. Jody Paar is a survivor who is no longer staying silent. She and her guest will fuel you up so you too can fight fear. Uplifting and inspirational stories that will rock you to your core. We don't tiptoe around the truth. We steamroll it in a bold way. This is your life, and now is the time to start living it. Get ready for the Faith Over Fear podcast with Jody Paar. Now, welcome Jody Paar to inspire you.
Hey guys, welcome back to Faith Over Fear. I'm so glad you guys are here. My name is Jody Paar. I have a very special guest today, Lauri Schoenfeld. Is that correct? Did I say it right?
Schoenfeld, yes.
Schoenfeld. Okay, I'll let you say that. But I'm so honored and excited to have you today. She's just a bright light, guys. She is just, I love to visit with her and to hear her story. And so we're going to turn it on over to her real quick. She's going to tell us, first of all, thank you so much for being here, and tell us the first time that you felt fear in your life.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Jody. I'm honored to be here.
Absolutely.
The first time that I remember fear was when I was 8, and my mom was sitting on the kitchen floor, and she was cutting her wrist, saying that she did not want to be here anymore. And I remember feeling that fear and panic of, how do I help my mother realize what I see in her and be able to save her in the space that she was in?
Yeah, that's really hard for an 8-year-old to witness and to see. So tell us what happened from there.
From there, I had called 911 and I had conveyed what was going on. I held my mom's hand and I was pleading with her to look me in the eyes. As my 8-year-old self, I remember thinking that if she could just see in my eyes, that she could maybe see what I see in her and she could feel it back. That there was that magic piece that really felt like, please let me just show her that she's amazing and I really want to help her. So I just held her hand, called 911. They got there, took care of my mom. And that night I just prayed that she would come home and that she was able to see what I felt like I had just given her, or hoped that she had just received from me, and that she would be okay.
Yeah, in those trying times and those hard times like that, and being 8 years old and praying and knowing that you had angels all around you, even though that was going on, right? You know that those angels were all around you and protecting your mom in that moment. So what happened after that? I'm just going to keep asking you that. We're just going to keep going with it. We're going to keep on rolling.
Yes. So my mom came back home, and things didn't change after that point. Things got very abusive within the home. There were multiple family members within the home where there was physical and sexual abuse happening with people that I loved and trusted. And I had taken on this mentality that I needed to be able to save the people that I loved from themselves, and really leaned into that at a very young age of just becoming essentially whatever they needed me to be, to pleasure them, to support them, to assist them. And in my 8-year-old self going on into 15, 16, I really believed that was love, that's what you did. You supported the ones you loved to save them and help them where they were hurting, even if it was affecting you, because that's what you would do. So that kind of continued my journey of putting myself last and just self-sacrificing, people-pleasing, overcommitting, to just be enough for other people. Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure for a child.
Yeah.
That is a lot of pressure for a child. So what happened next going into like teenager years, and what played into, because if there's trauma in childhood, there's going to be usually 9 times out of 10 something in the teenager area? Because that's the confusing area that we go through, and we have a hard enough time when there's not any underlying issues, but when there are underlying issues, a lot of times we either self-medicate, we also do the same thing that your mom was doing, or so tell me, as a teenager, what happened next?
Yes. Teenage years, I still continue to play a role of people pleasing, just stopping everything I was doing to support other people, make them like me, become whatever they needed me to be, so that it was comfortable for them, safe for them. I really didn't have any identity of who Lauri was. It was just become kind of the chameleon of whatever someone else needs of you in that moment. And that did mean going into a lot of peer pressure. When I was 14, 15, I stole from stores. I had a lot of areas where I did specific things in my teenage years where I really thought that that's how someone could love me and how I should love someone else. That was not healthy. It was not productive, that I didn't understand at the time. When I was around 16, 17, I became very rebellious and angry, where I actually went the opposite direction of no more people pleasing. I don't want to do what anyone tells me to do. And once left school, was very rebellious. Whatever somebody told me not to do, I would go and do, just to prove that they didn't have control over me and that I wasn't going to be someone's puppet anymore. So I didn't really have an understanding of what a real relationship looks like or what it should be like that was healthy. It was just me being whatever someone needed me to be in those moments.
Yeah, and you kind of didn't have an example of love either, right? Of what, because you were always trying to be that one, that yes, yes, yes person. And then you turned into the no, no, no person. And the whole time, like, you're looking for that love, right?
Yes. Yes.
So as far as in school and as a teenager, do you feel like you were more to yourself, or did you lean on anybody else, or did you kind of just hold all this inside?
I held a lot of it inside. I didn't want people to know what was going on behind the surface or be what I had told myself a problem. So I put on a very good front, that everything was fine, and made sure that I was focusing more on how to fix other people and help save them, rather than really looking inward and feeling what I needed to feel to help myself. That was something that I was numbing out. Like, I was pretending that I wasn't hurting and that things were fine and that I wasn't in pain, when I really was hurting quite a bit.
It reminds me of when you're on an airplane and they're like, put a mask on yourself before you put one on other people, because a lot of times we're trying to save someone who's drowning, but we're drowning ourselves. And so we cannot, I just went two different extremes. I went from being in a plane to being in the water, but both scenarios speak to me, because it's like, you have to take care of yourself before you can offer any help to anybody else. Because if not, then say in the drowning situation, you just keep going under the water and under the water and under the water all the time, trying to help yourself, and you don't know how. And so then other people are relying on you, and you're like, dude, I need air. I need my oxygen mask before I can turn around and give you one. Right. So it's that kind of, yeah,
very much so.
Together with that. So tell us what happened next.
So I continued that path. I met my husband in high school, loved him, gave him what I knew was love, which at the time was all that I knew, and it wasn't healthy and it was not productive.
Yep.
But fell in love with my husband. We're high school sweethearts. We got married 3.5, 4 years later after high school, and we continued our relationship, continued to build a family together. About midpoint, that's when things kind of started getting really hairy and sticky, where I realized there were some real problems that I was not addressing as depression continued to get heavier rather than lessen.
Yeah, the haunting of the past comes over you. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right. And that takes a toll on everyone around you.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of us wearing masks and everywhere we go, isn't it crazy? I think about this all the time, that we wear masks that are invisible because we don't want people to truly see what we're going through. They're like, how are you? Like, oh, I'm good, I'm great, I'm fantastic. And the whole time you're like really just dying on the inside. Because I went through that for like 20 years. Everybody's like, how are you? I'm so good, I'm great, I'm gonna go get drunk again, or I'm gonna go do drugs again, or I'm gonna go do something. But I'm good, but I'm good. And that's the thing, is we all wear these masks, and we need to take them off and be true to who you are. And the thing is, the enemy is going to say that people are not going to love you. They're not going to, that is the main thing. You're going to have rejection, you're going to have shame, you're going to have guilt. And it is the absolute opposite of that when you stand in your truth. So your husband and you started to suffer from that you had not fixed yet, or that you not dealt with yet, that it was behind the mask. So what happened after that?
So I had continued on the same cycle of just people pleasing, giving, not addressing any of my problems, pretending that they were not there. And a part of what I realize now is I had a very codependent, addictive personality that I learned at a very young age that I did not realize at the time. And so every time I tried to do something for myself, exactly what you said, the whole idea of you're selfish, how dare you, other people need you, all these limiting beliefs and lies would creep in, where I would go back into feeding this codependent behavior that I need to be this person's support, stop worrying about you. So I got to a space where my oldest was at the time 5, and I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Wow.
And I'm having these babies, and I am looking at them in complete and utter sorrow and depression, that I have failed them and I can't give any more, and that they would be better off without me. My husband would be better off without me, that I have nothing left to give, that I have given everything that I knew that I had, and that was not enough. I was still hurting. I was still drowning. And I literally felt that they would have been better off without me being their mom, that someone else could do a better job than me. So that was the lowest point that I had gotten in my life, was I just didn't want to be here. And I really firmly believed that God had it all wrong, that there was no place for me, and that was it.
All those lies, just so many lies of the enemy. And, I just thank you for standing in your truth, because that's something really difficult to do. But when you get on the other side of it, it makes it so much easier to say, yeah, I was at that point, that all these lies were so heavy in my head that, I don't know if you were going to do the same thing your mom did, or a different approach. But a lot of time there are those generational curses that keep repeating themselves over and over again. And so the enemy, was in your head as much. So you're here today. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. I'm looking at you right now. So there was a turning point there. So tell us what happened between that moment of all those voices saying, end it now, and you sitting where you're sitting today.
Yes. So I love that you brought up the generational, because I was in the shower and I was sobbing. I was in a fetal position, just going to a place that I had never allowed myself to be, sobbing and really just feeling and expressing that sorrow and that pain. And it was a lot. It was so heavy, and I felt so alone. And I really felt that this was it. But as I was sobbing and sitting there, I thought about my kids. My kids came into my mind. And then I also had an image after I saw my kids of my mom being exactly in the space that I remembered at 8 years old. And that kick-started me of, you cannot do that same thing to your children. I know you're hurting. I know that you're feeling this pain, but you cannot do that.
They just give me chill bumps. That's why I did that little dance, because that just gave me chill bumps. Powerful, so powerful.
So I saw that and I just sat there in it and continued to keep crying and feeling what I needed to feel. And the thought that came to me was, you have not yet done what you need to do. You're not done. And that you now need to learn how to love yourself. And you cannot give that to your kids. You can't teach them confidence, unconditional love, or support until you're showing yourself that kind of love and support. And then once you're giving yourself that and you know what that feels like, then you can give that to your kids and change everything and give that to other people in the future. But you can't do that until you show up for yourself. Yeah. And that, I remember thinking in my head, because I thought that before, and it used to come in as, you're really selfish, but it was this very powerful moment. I think also the visualization of my mom, of how I was not going to do that to my kids back to back, that I wiped my tears. I got up and I said, okay, I now have a new direction to go. I have not tried this direction. I haven't tried this path yet. And this is what we're going to do. And we're going to take it a step at a time and see what happens from here.
Man, that's so beautiful, because, you know, whenever the enemy, he doesn't whisper, he yells, you're not good enough. You're stupid. Your mom was that way. You're the same way. It yells at you. But when God speaks to us, it's in a soft, sweet voice. And that's how you know the difference between the two. It's the enemy's telling you that your kids are better off, but you know how that made you feel when that happened to you at 8 years old. So you know you don't want your kids to go through that. And it's just that little soft voice. So we're through the dark part. We're through the fear. We're through that. Tell us about the faith side of things. Tell us about when the light came in and the changes, and tell us, go from there.
Okay. So I started taking it a step at a time, of really asking myself questions in a way that I hadn't asked myself before, of what would help me to understand who Lauri is really? Who am I? What makes me feel loved and important and special? And I started really allowing myself to do things that I had never allowed myself to do before. So a big one for me was writing. Mm-hmm. I started writing out everything that I was feeling and going through and placing it on paper. And that really helped me to have grounding of who Lauri is, not the Lauri that someone told me I should be or who I've been for other people, but who am I really? That's just the beautiful Lauri that God knows and loves. It helped me gain a lot of awareness too on my cycles, mm-hmm. and on my limiting beliefs, on what's my truth and what are the things that I fed that have been lies that I've held as my truth. So I started starting there, and then I started reading books about parenting and unconditional love, looking into understanding affirmations and doing meditation. I tried anything that was a different healing modality just to try it and see how it felt for me, mm-hmm. and really took that step into what unconditional love and self-care. The things I would essentially do for my kids but had never done for myself, I started doing those for me and being my own hero, of not waiting for someone to save me but showing up for myself. So.
And so where have you, from there on, where have you gone? Like you have been through so much in life, and then you did the writing and everything like that. So where are you today? Like what's Lauri like today, and what's her family like today? And tell us that.
Yes, thank you for asking, Jody. I am a writer, so I'm writing some novels and books right now. I love writing, and talking about everyone's stories and connecting through story. I also have a business called Inner Enlightenment, and it's for men, women, and kids of all ages, where they can come and get guidance and support to heal and gain awareness of their PTSD with their anxiety and depression through forms of creativity and self-expression. So we're really opening up a space for people to hear their voice, to express who they are, and not have those limitations that they put on themselves consistently, which is also opening up layers of healing for them as well. Our family, I'm now setting boundaries, which is a huge thing of I'm setting healthy boundaries within my home and my family, which is really showing my children how to love themselves, how mom loves herself, how my husband and I are having a healthy relationship with ourselves by setting those loving boundaries of respect and support. We are a family and a home of expressing a lot of emotion now, not withholding, not pretending that it's all okay. So we have a lot of fun ways that we create sharing that emotion with each other, to tap into what we really are going through and connecting in that way. So it's been really, really beautiful, and I'm very excited about who I've connected with along the journey, through my story, and I get to hear their stories as well through healing through some similar things as well. So
Yeah, and everybody has different ways of healing. Like, I talk about my way. Like, if it wasn't for Jesus in my life, I would not be here. And so everybody has a different way that they go through healing, and they have to do what works for them. And so I am just so ecstatic for you and for your story of just strength, and that you are here today, and that you are a hero to your children, and even to your husband. And I know that. I have to ask, how is your mom? How is she?
We split ways a few years ago. There were certain boundaries that she did not want to comply with, and so I'm sending her love right now and hoping for the best for her. But to be able to get myself in a healthy space for me and my family, I needed to be honest with cutting some of those ties to change that cycle within my own family.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I totally get that. I saw a funny post the other day, and it said, "Come on in, we treat you like family." And underneath it, it said, "I ain't going in that store." And I thought that was so funny, because it was just, one of those little memes things that's really funny. But Lauri, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your truth and coming on here today. And we're just, such a light. I mean, you shine bright, and keep telling your story, because there are a lot of people who need to know that, it's okay. It's okay if you go through things as a child. It's okay if as a teenager you do things that, you're not proud of. It's okay. And that's so important that people know that. And God forgives us, and that's the most beautiful part of it, is we do not have to carry that guilt and that shame and that all those things that the enemy wants us to carry. We don't have to carry any of it. It's behind us. And so I love you, girl, and wish you nothing but the best. If anybody wants to reach out to you via Facebook or any social media platforms, how can they do that?
Yes, so if you go on both Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, it's just Lauri Schoenfeld, under Lauri_Schoenfeld, very simplistic. And they can find me in any of those 3 platforms. Awesome.
Thank you so much. Guys, thanks so much for watching and listening. My name is Jody Paar. You can find me online at jodypaar.com. Also on social media platforms, you'll find me under that name as well. Thank you again so much for being here. And guys, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.